The Lord be with you. From the Holy Gospel according to Luke. A man in the crowd said to Jesus, "Master, tell my brother to give me a share of our inheritance." "My friend," he replied, "who appointed me your judge or the arbitrator of your claims?" Then he said to them, "Watch and be on your guard against avarice of any kind, for a man's life is not made secure by what he owns, even when he has more than he needs." Then he told them a parable. There was a rich man who, having had a good harvest from his land, thought to himself, "What am I to do? I have not enough room to store my crops." Then he said, "This is what I will do. I will pull down my barns and build bigger ones, and store all my grain and my goods in them. And I will say to my soul, 'My soul, you have plenty of good things laid by for many years to come. Take things easy, eat, drink, have a good time.' But God said to him, 'Fool, this very night the demand will be made for your soul. And this hoard of yours, whose will it be then?' So it is when a man stores up treasure for himself in place of making himself rich in the sight of God." This is the gospel of the Lord. We have to learn to rely on God, that we need Him to look after us, because there will come a time when we stand before Him and we will not have anything else to rely on. It will be just us asking Him to take us into His life forever. And the gospel today says that we have to prepare ourselves for this moment. We have to learn to do the moment beforehand, so to speak, during our earthly life, so that when it comes, we are familiar with what we have to do. We will know how to do it because we have done it many times in our earthly life, and we will have the necessary attitudes in place. To make the task clearer, the gospel today asks us to imagine the opposite. It is a particular sort of person, someone who has always been well-to-do, who has relied unthinkingly on the advantages of wealth and power. They've relied on themselves, in other words. And they come before God and they look around them for their familiar securities, the things they have always relied on to get them through, the people they have employed, the resources they have built up, the insurance that was meant to cover every contingency. And all these things have disappeared. There is just the person, the bare person, alone before God's face. And they are bewildered. They do not know what to do because they never learned how to do it during their time on earth. They never learned to rely on God, and they don't even understand what it could mean to rely fundamentally on another. The Gospel says, as always, that we should not think of this person as someone else. No, this person is in ourselves. It is one of the possibilities that is inside us, something we might become. And the Gospel says that if we don't watch it, it will take us over and it will become our very identity so that we cannot get out of it. We know what it is talking about, the panicky urge we all experience to save our lives at all costs, to make them more and more secure against whatever might come, so that whatever bad happens, at least it will not happen to us. We will be all right because we have taken care of it. If we look closely at this urge, we find it is based on a conviction that if we do not look after ourselves, no one else will. And to hold this conviction is almost a definition of not believing in God, holding that the only help available is from us. And this is probably the unhappiest life imaginable. I once had a teacher who was asked in a newspaper questionnaire, what did he think was the most unfortunate thing that could happen to a person, the worst thing that could come on a human life? And he answered, not to believe in God. The worst thing was to come to live in a world that contained no large generosity at all, so that such a thing, such a gift from beyond us was never expected. There was nothing out there to which we could stretch out our hands in hope. Today's readings spend most of their time talking about this bad possibility. They don't give a lot of detail on what the good possibility looks like, the one where we rely on God to save us. But they have a few phrases, making ourselves rich in the sight of God, becoming a new self that is renewed in the image of its Creator. St. Paul indicates that every earthly journey needs to become a journey away from the bad possibility and towards the good one. He talks about leaving our guilty passions, our evil desires, the things that take us over when we feel there is nothing to fall back on except ourselves. There is a striking prayer that is part of today's psalm. Make us know the shortness of our life, that we may gain wisdom of heart. It could sound a dangerous prayer to pray. What would happen if God granted it? But in fact, God has probably already shown us many times what this prayer is asking for. For example, we all have experiences sooner or later where our plans are suddenly thrown and we find ourselves without the usual resources, and to our horror, we have to ask a stranger for help. I remember decades ago, before the time when people routinely had credit cards or bank cards, getting left behind by a bus that had made a meal stop in a town, and the bus left a few minutes before it was supposed to, and I was left stranded some way up the road, without luggage, without much money, without anything. You have to ask someone you have never seen before, "Will you help me?" It's pretty awful, but it's a moment sent by God. The final shape of our lives will be like this, where we have to ask this question of God, and we have to learn how to do it. We can have different experiences when we ask such a question on earth, but the result often surprises us. The kindness of strangers when it is obvious to them that we need their help. And that should show us something about our fundamental situation, what it is we ultimately need to learn, that we are needy. Salvation comes not from us, but from beyond us. And we need to remodel our life around this, so that we make ourselves rich in the sight of God and become a new self renewed in his image. We need to learn to rely on him, and we know that he will not let us down.